Well, good morning. If you have a copy of the Bible with you, I'd encourage you to turn to Proverbs chapter 31. If you don't have a Bible with you, there's Bibles under the chairs. You can turn to page 459 there or follow along with us on the screen as we're wanting to look at this passage together. It's applicable to moms on Mother's Day, of course, but also to all of us in some rather huge ways. So we're gonna look at it. Some of what is here might be apparent immediately, the connections with the Mother's Day and some things. Others of it might take a couple minutes to be able to get to. So hang with me on the connection points. I think we'll see it by the end. But some of it's very apparent very, very quickly, like the connections here on Mother's Day. So if you turn there, verse 1 says this: "The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance his mother taught him." And there you go, right out of the gate, right? Like, so you can see the Mother's Day connection very clear. This entire section is a mama talking to her son, giving him some advice. So what does she say? Well, she starts out in very mom-like fashion. Listen. Right? And does she need to repeat that? Amen. She does, right? Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answers to my prayer. That's a mama talking, right? Like, dude, listen to me, right? I remember my mom used to say, "Bring me your face." You know, look me dead in the eye, right? Listen to what it is that I'm saying. Pay attention. It's a very authentic start, isn't it? To this little section, it rings true. And if you think that sounds like a mama talking, check out the first piece of advice that she gives her son. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. In other words, don't be a womanizer, right? Don't make life all about the chasing of women. And she gives here a positive aspect of this. A positive side is she's saying to her son, you have strength, you have energy, you have life, right? And that's a good thing. It's a sort of currency, you might say. So use it. Spend it in worthy pursuits. So that's the positive side of it. But the negative, she's being very clear on. She's not sugarcoating this at all, right? You can, son, end up wasting your life. You can do that. You can do that, but I don't want you to do that. And King Lemuel's mama here, she's not messing around, right? She gets straight to the point. The point one here is very, very clear. As is her second point. Here's her second point that she goes into. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It's not for kings to drink wine. It's not for rulers to be able to crave beer. To which some of us are like, what is she talking about here, right? Like, does she have some like personal vendetta, against alcohol or something like that, right? Or maybe she's had like a friend who's gotten killed by a drunk driver or something. So maybe she's got like a chip on her shoulder about alcohol from some sort of situation like that. That there's pain there, and we're like, okay, I would understand that. Like, is that maybe what this is? No, actually, that's not it at all. She actually goes on and tells us her reasoning. She says that as a king, if you're going to drink, then you're going to end up mentally impaired by the alcohol. Even if you're not like completely trashed by it, you're still impaired. And that's a problem, Mama says, because as a king, you'll end up forgetting the laws, the rules of the land and so forth, and end up depriving all the oppressed of their rights. Mama here is giving a quick lesson on drinking alcohol, stating that for kings, or more generally for those in various leadership positions, you shouldn't be drinking because you're the one in charge. You need a clear head, be able to think through the laws and so forth. Otherwise, people won't get the justice from you that they should be getting from you if you're impaired with alcohol and you can't even think straight. And she says actually a little bit more on that in a minute, but before she does, she kind of interjects something almost sarcastically here. She says this: let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. What she's doing here is subtly reminding the king that he's not these people. He's not them. He's not poor. He's not got a life of difficulty, not compared to these other people. And as a matter of fact, these very people are looking to him as their king. They're looking for him to be able to help them if they come to him for justice and so forth. And if he's impaired, he can't think straight, he can't do that for them. He can't. And Mama drives that point home, telling her son that as king, he's supposed to actually be speaking up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute, speaking up and judging fairly and defending the rights of the poor and the needy. Right. So Mama here, she's saying, you're the king. You should be drinking if you want to be at your best. for those that are entrusted to your care, which makes complete sense if you're the king or for others who have such responsibilities, pastors even, myself. I get phone calls all hours of the day, right? So like at what point in the day or which day in the week could I afford to be impaired by alcohol? Like it doesn't really fit, right? And that makes sense. And maybe it's something for us to think about for some of us with some of the responsibilities that we carry, maybe not as a king or a counselor, but maybe some other responsibilities. But Mama here, she doesn't stay on this subject for very long. She quickly moves on to point 3. Point 1, don't be a womanizer, right? Point 2, don't drink. Point 3, do be careful in the selection of a wife. And if you're familiar at all with this section of the Bible, you know Mama kind of goes off here, right? Mama kind of gives some things. So we're going to make our way down through it really, really quickly. But notice what she says. Here's how she begins. A wife of noble character. Who can find? Finding a good wife is a difficult thing. She is worth far more than rubies. As in, it might be hard to find a good wife, but finding a good wife is going to save you from a world of headaches in the future and make your life a lot easier. And remember here the context. This is a mama talking to her son. So mama knows ladies, right? She's seen good women. She's seen some not so great women. So she's being straight up here with her son. Like, if you marry well, son, if you marry well, it'll help you, son, not hurt you. As a matter of fact, notice what she says next. Her husband will actually have full confidence in her. And he lacks nothing of value because she brings him good and not harm all the days of her life, right? A good wife is hard to find, but well worth the wait, as the wrong one brings the opposite of all this, while a good one brings confidence and value and good. For instance, she selects wool and flax. That's the top of your list this morning you're thinking of, right? I'm sure, right? She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. And we see some of this and we're like, what's going on here? And I know some modern readers really react to this kind of thing. She works, right? Like all we see, some modern readers, we see stuff like this. It's almost like we're looking for, oh, I see what you're saying. Woman's place is in the kitchen. She's just supposed to stay in the kitchen, right? And we just automatically go to those kind of places in our culture today. But remember what we're reading here, right? This isn't a stay in the kitchen type section of the Bible at all, right? Remember, this isn't patriarchy speaking or something like that, just the opposite. This is King Lemuel's mom talking to him, giving him advice on women. I know them. Dude, listen to me on this, right? She's giving him some advice. The type of woman you're wanting here, she works hard, she works eagerly. As in, she's not complaining. She recognizes that her efforts here are contributing to the whole of this family. And she's doing that so it's giving an illustration, right? A comparison is being made. She's doing that like the merchant ships do. In other words, there's no staying in the kitchen here. She's going all over the place, actually outside of the home, like the merchant ships are, seeking deals and moving goods back and forth to provide for the needs of her family. So much so, it says that she gets up while it is still night, and she provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. And it's kind of interesting here, this detail, right, that she not only gets up early to get food ready for her family, but also for those who are serving in her home, which I know for many of us modern moms, we're probably like, I wish I had servants to help me around the house as well, right? I get that. But notice with me here what this is saying, right? It's not, and notice here that she's not up super early in the morning with them waiting on her. She's actually the one up first, getting food ready for her family and for the women that are working for her. So she's serving. She's industrious in that way in the house, but also outside of it. It says she considers a field. Like, is this a good field, good piece of property to be able to buy? And she determines that it is. She buys it. She buys it out of the earnings, presumably from other business adventures and so forth that she's involved in. And she plants a vineyard. And if you step back and think about this for a little bit, like I'm guessing some of us here this morning didn't expect, if you're not familiar with the Bible especially, you didn't expect this kind of verse to be in the Bible. Again, people unfamiliar with the Bible think, the Bible just, women, they stay in the kitchen or whatever. But here in the book of Proverbs, we actually see one woman telling her son that a good woman is actually an entrepreneur. You notice that? That's what we're seeing here. She's actually doing those kinds of things. She's scoping out a business opportunity, buying a field, and then making that field more valuable. She plants a vineyard, which provides sustenance food-wise for her family, but also an additional source of income. And is all of that easy work? No, not on the business side of it, and not on the physical planting the vineyard either. But she's a hard worker. We've already seen that. We saw it earlier. But we also see it here in what's said next. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for the task. So she's about the mental work, if you will, of shopping for property, doing the business side of things, but also the physical work of planting the vineyard and doing all that goes along with that. But that's not all. It says next, she sees that her trading is profitable. We're like, wait, is she a stock trader? Like, what's going on? Is she day trading, in the middle of all this, right? A female Warren Buffett or something? No, that didn't exist back then. But like the merchant ships thing we saw earlier, she's trading goods and services, likely from the fruit of her vineyard, and making sure that as she's doing all that business-wise, that she's actually turning a profit. She's getting a good deal for her trades. Oh, and it says next, her lamp does not go out at night. In her hands, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. And I know we don't know what those words really mean, right? What is that going on? What is that referring to? Well, I know they don't mean anything to us today, but back then, they didn't have Walmart or Macy's. They certainly didn't have a house of Bizan, right? So in order to have clothes, for the most part, they had to make them. And as any mom and dad knows, kids are in constant need of new clothes, right? They're outgrowing them for one thing. They're shredding the ones that they do have, right? They're rough on them. So they need new clothes, right? So the lamp here, it says, doesn't go out at night, because after she's done everything she's been doing all day, she now stays up after the kids go to bed, and she's working on their clothes, making new clothes for the family. But she's not just thinking of the people inside her family as she's doing that. She's also thinking of those outside. The next verse says she opens her arms to the poor. She extends her hands to the needy. So both inside and outside of her home, she's looking to be of help to people. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. She's providing both for her family and for herself, all through all of her hard work. And I want you to notice this here now, as we see all this with her hard work, all the things that she's doing. The next verse here seems to almost like, okay, we're talking about the wife here and all this good stuff that she's doing, and then all of a sudden it's like, bleh, and we're like talking about something else. Like, what's going on? Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes a seat among the elders of the land. We're like, what? Why are we suddenly talking about this dude? Get back to the wife, right? Get back to, it's Mother's Day. Get back, like, why are we talking about the husband? Well, it's interesting here, without going into too much detail on the customs of the time, the men who were leaders and people of influence in a particular town or city, they would meet at the city gate to conduct town business and to settle various matters. Well, this woman's husband is there among those leaders, and he is respected, it says, which again seems kind of random here to suddenly be talking about her husband. But when you look at the context of what comes before and what we're going to see afterwards, this sits right in the middle. She is, and her husband. What's going on there? Well, the context is this. King Lemuel, remember, his mama is telling him that a good woman will herself be a hardworking, respectable woman. And that respectability, her respectability, will spill over onto her husband. Said differently, the king himself could be a truly awesome person seeking to do big things in life, but if his wife just wants to sit at home all day watching soaps while sipping mimosas, that kind of makes things hard for the king, right? As he doesn't really have a partner in life now, does he? See, that's what King Lemuel's mama is trying to point out to him here. Choose your wife well, young man. Choose well. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. And we keep seeing business after business that she's involved in. She's buying property. She's starting vineyards. She's making enough clothes and at a quality level where she can actually sell them and supply the merchant ships with stuff. Like, this lady is killing it here. To which, if we're honest for a minute, let's be honest, right? Like so far as we're looking at this, if we're a mom, if we're a wife, and we're looking at all this, we're discouraged, right? Because this is impossible, right? Like, who lives up to all this, right? Those of us that are around church and you you go to different church conferences and stuff, you've heard of the Proverbs 31 woman. And the more you study it, the more discouraging it gets. Like, this lady's like Wonder Woman. Like, she's doing all this stuff, like, all the time. Like, when does she sleep? Oh, she gets 22 minutes, from 3:30 till, how in the world is she doing all this stuff? It's absolutely crazy. She is killing it. Apparently perfect in every way. It's kind of discouraging, actually, isn't it, ladies? Like, I get it. Like no one can really live up to all this, and I get that. So let me give you some quick encouragement. There's a lot of things we could talk on. Let me just point out one before we wrap up with looking at the last few verses. Here's the thing. If you study this chapter out and you get into the details of the grammar that is used, most of our English translations translate it all in the present tense, as in she is doing this or that right now, today, tomorrow. She's actually doing all this stuff. So she's making linen garments today. She's selling them. She's supplying the merchants. She's doing this. Like, she's all these different things. She's doing them all at the same time. And it's written in the present tense. And it makes sense why the translators would translate it that way, because they're trying to show, the emphasis on her doing all these things. So that kind of makes sense. But if you study the language out a little bit, most of this wasn't written in the present tense. It was actually written in the past tense. In other words, this whole section talking about this woman is referencing things that she's done in the past as a sort of summary of her lifetime of living. In other words, over the course of her life, she's been involved in these sorts of good and godly things. Over her lifetime, not all of them at once. I mean, think about that. When the kids are little, right? Those of you that have had little kids or have little kids now, actually, if you have little kids now, you might not be here today, right? Because it's a busy time. I get that, right? So think about this, right? With little kids, moms are swamped, right? There's no way a mom with little kids is doing all of Proverbs 31. No. And there's no pressure to do so, as that's not what Proverbs 31 is saying. Proverbs 31 is laying out for us a sort of idealized woman. As remember, this is King Lemuel's mama talking to him about the type of wife that he needs to find. Someone who is the type of woman to do all of these things. Not all at the same time. Think about this, right? This is King Lemuel's mama talking to him about the kind of wife he's going to find. So as she's telling him this, has the woman he's going to marry had any kids yet? No, she's not doing it. Does she have the financial resources to buy property and start business? No, this is at the very beginning of things. Mama's laying out some things. That's the kind of person that you need to marry. You need to find a young lady who is that type of woman that's going to be doing these kinds of things. A woman who seeks to serve rather than be served. A woman who works hard to get what she has rather than just complaining about her perceptions of what she is owed. Like, mama's preaching here. Mama's preaching. The more time you spend with this passage, you can see it. Timothy Keller, he wrote this about the Proverbs 31 woman. Is this woman idealized such that she doesn't exist? Like, is this talking about an actual person, right? Or is this woman idealized? Yeah, she's idealized, he says, right? Yeah, she's idealized. As again, this is King Lemuel's mama talking to him about the type of wife he should be looking for. But Timothy Keller, he adds to this thought that yes, she's an idealized woman, but in the same way as a truly loving person is. And some of you recognize 1 Corinthians 13 that he's referencing, love is patient, love is kind, and so forth, this idealized vision of that. But no one's doing that perfectly, or the godly person, the truly loving person, the truly godly person. Some of you might recognize Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, faith. But are any of us doing that perfectly? No. And so Tim Keller, he goes on, those who are saved by Christ love these texts as guides to pleasing and resembling the one who saved us. The gospel produces people who are eager to obey those patterns and not be crushed by them. It's good. That's really, really good. Yeah, those of us who are Christ followers, we aren't crushed by these passages. Rather, we see them as patterns and as guides for us to chase after in our seeking to please Christ. It's all good. And that's the Proverbs 31 woman as well. This list of great things about her. And the chapter, as we get to the end of it here, the chapter ends by giving us a few final closing thoughts about her. It says she is clothed with strength and dignity. What an incredible line. She is clothed with strength and dignity. There is much confusion today about what a woman even is. In some circles, a woman is no more than a costume, something you put on. But in Proverbs 31, she is clothed in inner attributes. There is an inner strength and dignity that she carries. She needs no outward validation, even though encouragement is always appreciated. She, the Proverbs 31 woman, carries herself with and is defined by inner convictions, not outward costumes. She can laugh at the days to come, it says. There's no panic about what tomorrow may bring, as she's got a bigger perspective that we'll look at here in a minute, that results in her ability to be able to laugh and enjoy each day. And that bigger perspective allows her to speak with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. Right, wisdom is right there, right on the tip of her tongue as she speaks. So while there is all this industrious, work at home and as a businesswoman and so forth, she's also a wise counselor who watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. With her work inside and outside the house, she's paying close attention to what is happening. She's not lazy. She's not eating the bread, so to speak, of idleness. No laziness here. And as she does all this, do those who are closest to her notice what she's doing? Yes, her children arise and call her blessed. And I love this inclusion here, they arise, and there's several different angles we can look at that, but one of them is the obvious for us as parents. We've probably discovered this already, but little children don't necessarily appreciate mom when mom's telling them not to do something. Have you discovered this? Yeah. Or maybe your teenager doesn't like that, or your college student, or whatever, right? But there's this interesting thing, right? That as time moves on, children arise. They discover some things. It's interesting, quite amazing how much smarter and wiser mom gets as kids get older. Hey, you notice that, right? Or actually, it's the reverse, right? It's amazing how as kids get older, they're the ones that are realizing, actually, mom has been pretty great all along. She's done a lot for me, and she's done a lot for others. And they begin to realize how awesome and amazing their mom is. Perfect? No, for sure not perfect. But most moms are trying. And while not perfect, there's still a lot to thank them for. And so children typically do come to a place of genuine appreciation for their moms. And it goes on, it says her husband also, he also praises her. He recognizes what a great wife he has and a good mom she is, and he thanks her and he praises her and he says things like, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all, right? This is the original t-shirt, mom's world's greatest mom. This is the origin for that, right? And how we would figure out who the greatest is, I don't know. But you see the point that's being made here, right? The point that's being made is that for this husband and for these kids, this woman is a huge blessing. She does amazing and noble things for them all the time. So both the kids and the husband have much to thank her for. And so we could end like right there. We could just stop there. It's Mother's Day, right? Like we could just end right there because it gives us clear instruction on being of encouragement to our moms and thanking them and praising them and so forth. And for husbands to be doing that with their wives as well. So we could just end there. But there's actually two more verses here in Proverbs, and they're really important part here of this chapter, as they not only conclude the chapter and what we've looked at so far, but they actually pull together and conclude all of the book of Proverbs. These are the very last two verses in the book of Proverbs. So it's kind of interesting to see how it concludes. So take a look at it with me. Here's how this entire wisdom book ends. It says, charm is deceptive. Think, charm, the sweet talker, the flirt, or the business person just trying to make a deal, right? He's just trying to get a sale, that kind of deal. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. We all hate that, but it's true. Surgeries and blah, 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 blah can only do so much. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised, it says. And it introduces this little phrase here, who fears the Lord. And maybe some of us don't understand what that means in the Bible, that little phrase. Because you just read that on its face, it sounds like, they fear the Lord. They're terrified of God, right? Is that what they're saying? Like a woman who's terrified of God is to be praised. Is that what it is saying? No, this isn't a terror thing or a scared thing. It's not that at all. It actually means living with an awareness of God's presence. An awareness that God is with me at all times. He is here. He walks with me through my day. There's a sense of awe, a sense of reverence, a sense of, I am not alone. I am never alone. I walk with God. A woman who walks through Walmart, or walks through a diaper change, or walks into work, understanding that she's there with God and she's walking with him in that moment, is to be praised. Who fears the Lord, lives with an awareness of God's presence. Another definition others have given is living as if God is real. Living as if God is real and if God is in charge, right? Because a woman who lives with an awareness of God's presence and lives as if God actually is real and in the room at all times, that woman is going to act in a certain way. She's going to do certain things. Is that awareness of God's presence brings wisdom. And this is the end of verse 31. Well, actually, there's one more verse left to look at, and we'll look at here in a second. But now that we're seeing this fears the Lord statement being emphasized, we really need, because we're at the end of the book. So if we go all the way back to the beginning of the book and see how it starts and see how it ends, I think this will make more sense to us. So if you were to go back to Proverbs chapter 1, it begins this way. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, the king of Israel. What's it written for? It's written for gaining wisdom and instruction. That's what Proverbs is for. For understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. Right. The entire book was written to help people gain wisdom as to how to do life well. And they gained that, wisdom, instruction, understanding, and so forth, and then they put it into practice. And that's important. It's part of wisdom. It's actually putting it into practice. It's not just information gained, but it's actual formation or transformation, actually acting on what they've learned. And the beginning of all of that, gaining of wisdom and knowledge is what? Where does that start? Well, here's how chapter 1, verse 7 tells us it starts. It says, the fear of the Lord, sound familiar? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. It's what we saw at the end. He is God, I am not. I am living in his presence right this second. And he not only knows what is best for me, but God actually wants what is best for me. He actually wants what's best for me. He's on my side, so to speak. He's rooting for me. He wants good things for me. So he's taken the time to have books like the book of Proverbs written down for us so that we can learn how to do life well, learning how to be good moms and dads, sons and daughters, and so forth. And all of that starts with the fear of the Lord. This is how the book of Proverbs begins. And the fear of the Lord. This is how the book of Proverbs ends. Charm is deceptive. Beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord, she's to be praised. Right. Not because she's Wonder Woman. Not because she's Wonder Woman. Not because she's the object of some patriarchal system of blah, blah, blah. No, there's none of that nonsense here. No, she is to be praised because she's rejected the subtle lies of charm and beauty and instead focused on living life in the very presence of Almighty God. Simply put, the Proverbs 31 woman is a woman who has decided to live her life for God. She is seeking with her entire life to live out of wisdom, to live out the wisdom that the book of Proverbs and the rest of the Bible gives to her. Like she knows the proverb, look to the ant, you sluggard. And knowing that, she lives her life accordingly. We just saw it in Proverbs 31, how she lived that out, right? She actually puts into practice what the Proverbs have taught her. That's the message. That's the point of Proverbs 31 and what King Lemuel's mama is saying to us. And so with that reality in mind and the book of Proverbs in our mind, this wonderful book on wisdom, it ends with this. Here's the final verse, not only in this chapter, but in the entire book. It ends with this. Honor her. Honor her for all that her hands have done. And let her works bring her praise at the city gate. When all is said and done, and people are meeting to talk about us, They will judge us not by what we said we are going to do. Lots of people are all talk, but no action. But for women of God, as well as for men of God, they take action on what God has called them to. And they should be honored for doing so. Said differently, a genuine fear of God always moves us to action, not inaction. Moms who fear the Lord, they take action. They worship God in all that they do throughout the day, be it dishes or diapers, dentistry or dermatology. Whatever mom does today, God calls her to see it all as being fully in his view, done for his honor and glory, as doing so makes both diapers and dentistry an act of worship. Let me show you a quick video that might help pull some of this together for us, and then we'll close in a word of prayer.
Here we are, it's Saturday morning. We're to do some chores. Gotta tidy up the house, so here we go. My name is Julia, and I am a mom of 2 little ones. They are 3.5 and 1.5, so life is great and full. I'm going to take my second sip of coffee of the day, straight from the microwave.
My name is Kat, and I have 2 boys. And if I had to sum up being a mom in one word, I would say it's wild.
There you go. Make sure you share with your sister, please. Why did I not think to bring 2 waters out? I am Alicia. Every morning when I wake up, I think to myself, okay, we're gonna do this. Being a mom is definitely a bit of a roller coaster ride. You can have one moment that's just off the charts, amazing, beautiful, and then the next moment it can all just be derailed and it feels like there's no getting back from it, and everyone just needs to go to bed. What to make for lunch, what to make for lunch, what to make for lunch, what to make for lunch. Chips and cereal. Works for me.
Being a mom is like fudge. It's really dense and it's super sweet, but there are times when I'm like, I think I've had too much and I might be sick.
Go get him.
My kids are a constant reminder to me of the grace of God, how I can mess up so many times and yell maybe too often, but at the end of the day, my kids are always there and they're constantly telling me how they love me and they never hold a grudge. The moment I became a mom, I felt like I had this deep awareness about what I was made for, and I feel like I was made to worship. And it kind of dawned on me in the hospital that raising them would be my worship, and it would be the best worship that I could give God.
Being a mom is the best. Just feeling like I've been entrusted with such a gift that I get to help raise these kids to know how loved they are and how special they are as well. So I'm so thankful. Being a mom is the best. Best job I've ever had, for sure. Doesn't pay very well, but it's still great.
Moms, none of the little details that you do throughout the day are missed by God himself. He sees it all. And if you're doing what you're doing for him, aware of his presence, seeking to live out his commands and promises in front of him, then your day in all of its details is indeed worship. And we see it. Or we can see glimpses of it anyways. We can't see as much as God does. And we want to honor you, though, in what we do see and the life of godliness that you lead. Stand with me if you would. Let me close this in a word of prayer. God, we do thank you so much for our moms. We actually thank you for our moms just like everyone else does in a way, as our moms have done a ton for us specifically. Perfectly, no, but most of our moms have done the very best that they can, often with a world of challenges thrown at them that we don't understand when we're kids, but we start to understand the older we get. we start to see a little bit more clearly how they've worked very hard to be able to give us what they could. So we thank them for that, just like most of the world does today on Mother's Day. But God, as your people, as followers of Jesus, those of us who've had the added blessing of having a mom who loves you, having a mom who fears you, having a mom who has tried her level best to live out the Proverbs, God, we thank you so much for that legacy. Not the legacy of perfection, as none of us are there, but the legacy of a life well lived. Not in any one moment, but over the long haul of a life. Yeah, there have been valleys, seasons where mom has struggled, but over the course of her life, man, for many of our moms, the trajectory has been clear. She loves you. She has sought to turn to you with everything, with each moment, each struggle, each season of life. She's been faithful in turning to you and to your word. And so, God, we thank you for her and for good women in general who seek to live before you today. Help us to honor them all today, our bio moms, but also our many spiritual moms. In Jesus' name and for Jesus' glory in these days, we pray these things. Amen.